Welcome to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where we discuss relevant information concerning the cybersecurity workforce, business development, and best practices, made possible by CMIS. Learn more at CMIS.net. And for a list of authorized publications, visit DewayneHart.com. And now, here's your host, Dewayne Hart.
Welcome again, my listeners. We have made it to episode 14. How to build a successful cybersecurity career. Now, I realized that since I'm only going to do this for about a half an hour, I realized that I may get responses and saying, that should have been a whole hour. And you're right about that. Because what I'm going to do with this podcast session is just to focus on the high-level things that you as a person who is entering the cybersecurity workforce or someone that works in the cybersecurity workforce needs to know. And when I was putting all my notes together and also thinking about some of the discussion points that I needed to have in place, I thought about effective ways to deliver this podcast session. And one of the ways to approach it is to look at it from the higher level and to state, okay, when I first started off into this industry, how did I approach the career field? What were some of the challenges that I approached? How could I have done things better? And also, too, what is it some of the things that I know that normal people do not talk about when it comes to career development? Because most of the times when you hear about a person's career development, is talk about education, talk about training, talk about taking on different jobs, talk about taking on your resumes. That is all fine. But there are some nuances that go outside of that I think that people need to know. So stay with me through this podcast session here. And if you are involved with cybersecurity, or if you're thinking about entering the cybersecurity workforce, I am going to give you some food for thoughts and to give you some knowledge. All right, because my personal career started off in the cybersecurity industry, working on a junior level, and then seeing others in the industry that will channel their way through education and training, and I jumped on the bandwagon. Did I ever think that I would become a podcast host that talking about cybersecurity? No, because a lot of times when you channel your career, you see different avenues that you want to travel, and you travel down those avenues, and you never know where you're going to go. But there are certain things that should exist in your career roadmap, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So let's just look at the outline for the show. First of all, I am going to talk about the need for the cybersecurity workforce. Why is the cybersecurity workforce needed? These are not just people that you hire and put on the staff just to try to create a pretty picture for cybersecurity. There's a dire need to have cybersecurity professionals. And we are going to be discussing why is that need a critical desire. Education certification. This is very important because education certification is needed, but then again, there are some rumors that are probably going around about what certification a person needs to have. What if I have a master's degree? How come I can't get hired because I have a doctorate? All right. We're going to break that down and look at some of the pros and the cons and the challenges of trying to build your professional profile as it relates to education and certification. Then next, we're going to get into something that's very important. My resume needs work. All right? Listen, your resume is the first thing that speaks about you. Recruiters don't know you personally. And you have recruiters that haven't even spoken to you. But guess what? They have a copy of your resume. If your resume do not represent you, it makes it challenging to channel through the cyber security career field. There's been talk about I should have 3 pages. I should have 1 page. All right. So no matter how many pages you should have, let's just talk about why your resume needs work, because your resume represents you. Choosing your role. Now, this is very important. So you don't went out there and you don't got certified. You have all the education in the world. But now, what role should you be choosing? Because when you spoke to that recruiter, he told you that was the best job that you could ever take, and you would get the best skill sets. And then you probably went on a job and realized that you didn't like it. And now you go, wow, I've been working here 2 weeks, and I really don't want to change jobs. So how should you choose your role? Next, I am going to get into, now that I am hired, what's next? This is when you get hired and you're on the job. How should you be performing? What are some of those things that you should know when you're working on a job every day? Okay? These are the things that a career professional never talks about. All right. And as I stated before, these are the nuances here. These are the things that are outside the box that you would never hear a person discuss about when it comes to career development. Okay. And speaking of career development, we're going to end it by talking about an individual development plan. An acronym called IDP is pretty much what it's called. This is where you're going to learn how to build your career, because it's about you. You know, everybody plans, but do people effectively plan for their careers? Okay. Sometimes people shoot from the hip and luckily end up in a job, or you know, they just take a job because the salary base looks really good. And others just kind of take a job because it's a piece of convenience. But your individual development plan needs to be built, and you need to have one in place. So let's just roll into talking about the need for the cybersecurity workforce. You know, when the IT industry and technology first started, and I spoke about this in some of my previous podcast sessions, especially on the dissecting cybersecurity, I gave a little history about how cybersecurity came about for today. Because if you go back in history and think about World War II, think about the 60s and the 70s, and think about that every time people had information, they was writing it down on a sheet of paper, putting it in a box and stuffing it in the closet or stuffing it in a locker. But over time, when the internet surfaced, there was a dire need for data. People wanted to log online, you know, to check their email. People wanted to use a chat room. I remember the first computer I got, it was a Packard Bell computer. And I was logging online, and and I was just using the computer to go to chat rooms, okay, and check email. And I was happy about that. But there was not a dire need for all the data and all the information. Privacy wasn't really a critical type of concern during those years. Banking and online access was private at a minimum. But over the couple of years, a lot of that has changed. And when that change happened, that's when cybersecurity began to grow and have a dire need. And as the dire needs happen, you need people to work in cybersecurity field. So as people began to work in the field, that's when it became apparent that you needed a workforce, right? And in order to build that workforce, people need to be trained. And this is how digital modernization came to surface, because the workforce has to change daily. And as the workforce is changing, you know, it's changing because of technology is growing. So this is the need for the cybersecurity workforce, because technology is growing, because there are security threats that are ever growing every day, and also too because you think about data and privacy. Now here's some facts to go shed to this topic here. Cybersecurity cannot be battled alone. Yeah, you cannot have cybersecurity without having a workforce. Okay, you cannot battle the field of cybersecurity and just say, hey, we're safe. But you need people and you need a workforce to actually accomplish the mission. Here's some facts right here is that phishing attacks account for 90% of data breaches according to Cisco's 2021 Cybersecurity Threat Trends Report. So if that is a case, then we need well-trained people and we need a workforce. Here goes something else of facts that I found too, is that human error accounts for 95% of all cyber breaches. So with that said, you need other people to keep other people in line. And this is why the cybersecurity workforce is a dire need. Now, for the people that want to transition into the field, or the people that are into the field itself, and for the others that are part of the workforce, there's a three-legged process that will help your career channel. So let's talk about education and certification, because a lot of times, I hear this talk about, I have a doctorate degree, I have a master's degree, I should be getting paid $160,000 a year. I have all these certifications. How come I can't get hired? But you know what? There's a triangle, and it's called the three-legged process: education, certification, and experience. If you're a cybersecurity professional, you're going to have to balance all three. If you have a master's degree, that's great. You can have all the certifications in the world. But, there are certain companies that also want their education, and they also want to have the experience from the candidates. So to accomplish the mission, right, you always got to think about the three-legged process. So still to the question, where do they matter and which one matter most? It all depends on the job, because you can go to a certain job and, the job may just be focused more so on certifications. And I've seen people that actually came from the old school technology areas, and it was not required to have education and certification. And, they've been around this industry for about 30 years. And, and they're saying, I got all this experience. How is it that I struggle for a job? Because the industry changes over time. As the industry changes and as the job requirements change, so should a person's career path. All right. So if you're in the industry today, get your certification, get your education. All right. Look at the job duties that you have. It's a changing industry. I always would believe in a very strong concept. You need options. Okay. It makes you powerful. Options are saying that I have maxed out my education. I have a doctorate. I have maxed out my certification. I have a CISSP. I have a certified ethical hacker. I have 12, maybe 13 different certifications. And I have so much experience. You have options. You are powerful if you can reach that level. So diversify. Don't just stay to one side of the coin and just focus on certification or focus on education or just focus on experience, but you got to add all three legs together. When you add all of those three legs together, that's when you can document it on your resume. So let's talk about something else important. My resume needs work. Okay. A recruiter doesn't know who you are when you submit your resume. Your resume is an image of you, okay? That resume has to state who you are. Now, but you have to be real with what you put on your resume. If you put all these skill sets on your resume and you don't have those skill sets and you get to a job interview, you're going to fail, all right? Now, if you underdocument your resume, which means there are critical skill sets that you have, your resume may get overlooked, all right? So a resume is an image of you. People don't know who you are. All they know is that they have seen cybersecurity professional's resume. All right. And when they look at that resume, that's all they know. So something else is that so many job ads and people try to cater their resumes for different job ads. Here is my note on that. Write who you are. Let the job ad be the job ad. Okay? Write who you are. But you can take a different job ad and look at those and see what the industry wants and take notes from that and to build your resume based on the critical skill sets that you offer to the industry. 1, 2, or 3 pages. I will admit, I broke the rule. I had 6 pages on my resume. I've had 4 pages. I've had 5 pages. I've actually had a friend that had 8 pages. Okay, 8 pages on his resume, and guess what? Recruiters still called him. But you know what? It was value in his resume. It was critical information in his resume that carried weight. It was not fluff. Fluff is just having a resume and saying that I am the number one person in my company that leads cybersecurity. Okay. But there's 2,000 other people that work in cybersecurity. You are not the number one person. Trust me on this. All right. Fluff. You get rid of the fluff off your resume. Make it actionable. Hardcore facts is what you need on your resume. Focus on skill sets versus the jack of all trades. Okay, you can know a million things about cybersecurity, but the truth is, what is it that you're good at? I remember when I channeled through the industry, I was always trying to find my niche and where I should be. I started off a guy that said, okay, I like programming. Then I realized it was boring because I didn't want to sit behind a computer all day. Then I transitioned over to networking, okay? And, it was kind of fun. Then I heard this word about cybersecurity and I got involved with it. And I like cybersecurity. But under cybersecurity, there are different type of job fields. You can work in a security operations. You can be an engineer, or you can be an analyst, or you can roll into the vulnerability management space. And this is where I found the most fun because on the vulnerability management, you have to know networking, and you have to know risk management, and you have to know system administration. So I said, hey, I like this field. And also, too, I get a chance to use some really extravagant tools, like Nexus, Rapid7, Splunk, and a couple other tools so I can get data. So the truth is, think about your niche. Think about where you want to go. Get good at something and be great at it. I actually have a friend now that is the king of McAfee products. All right. He can tell you everything you need to know about McAfee because that is exactly what he's been doing for the past 20 years. Is working on McAfee products. And he's a smart person. He knows everything about McAfee. And job recruiters just chase him down. Okay. And he's a smart person. So instead of the jack of all trade, he actually had focused skill sets. Your resume tells your story, so make sure it is easy understood and has a great flow. Yeah. People read your resume because it's a story of you. All right. Work on that resume because it needs attention. So now that you got your resume right and it's all pretty, now it's time to choose your role. Okay. What type of role should you be choosing? All right. Because you have the government and you have contracting companies and you have the financial industry and you have corporate America, you have banks. I mean, it's so many different type of roles to choose. So I always like to say that if you're a junior person and you just coming on board for cybersecurity, think about if you worked in a SOC environment because you put your hands on tools the most. All right. And you learn tools a lot. As you move up to the mid-level, you want to get up to more so at advanced areas and, and to choose jobs where you may want to be an engineer, okay? And more senior person is pretty much more so like on a project base, to go lead different teams. They have terms called specialists, analysts, engineers, and managers. Okay, specialists are usually, junior level people. Analysts do exactly what they're supposed to do, analyze information. Engineers are the ones that put the puzzle together. Managers are the ones that manage everybody else. Is to go and make sure that everything is operating efficiently. Manage, all right? Which actual roles you should choose because it could be different areas or roles that you like. But, when you look at a role, you think about whether that role going to channel you to the next level. Look at the company, all right? Because it's great to diversify. If you have worked in the financial industry, the healthcare industry, government contracting, the government, and you work for insurance companies, see, you're powerful because you've been around and you understand how cybersecurity operates amongst those different entities. Now, if you can ever do that, see, that works well. Even if you work in the government and you go between the different agencies like the CDC, the VA, maybe the Department of Homeland Security, maybe the Army, the Navy, all right, and you work around those different agencies, now what happens is that you become powerful and you have options. Money versus fame, okay? Okay. Sometimes because you're going to get that big check on the job doesn't mean that it's the best job to have, okay? Think about money versus fame, all right? Fame is all the glory, okay? It's the glory that you get on a job. Sometimes, the glory is worth the wait, and then sometimes the glory is not worth the wait. So when you take on a role, think about what that role is supposed to carry you. Okay. Something else is that where are the best skill sets? The best skill sets are pretty much where you take yourself. But, as a junior person, I would say if you worked in a SOC environment, it actually helps out a lot because, see, you want to take on a role that's going to allow you to get all your different skill sets. Because as of now, if you look at the different type of teams that are involved with cybersecurity, it is about products and services. There are products like Zscaler, Envision, Splunk, ArcSight, some QRadar, Cisco products and services, So when you work around these different areas and work around those different type of packages, then it gives you different skill sets. All right. And as you gain these skill sets, you are much more marketable to employers, and also you have options now. Because see, what you want to do is to change the tone around. And I give a little story. Maybe about a couple of years ago, I was called by a recruiter. At the time I was in the industry working, and the recruiter said that, what is stopping you from leaving your current job? And I said, I like the job. He said that it's got to be more than that. He said, check it out. He said, there's no way that you should stay on that job. So I said, what? And he goes, listen, he said that if you don't have a reason to be on the job, he said, you should leave and come and work for us. So I sat there for a moment and I thought about it. I said, you know what? I said, maybe he's right. But then again, he is a job recruiter. Okay. And so I always like to say that you have to know what you want. Okay. And I give that recruiter credit because I never heard that talk before. And I was almost sold into his plan. Next is that, okay, now that I'm hired, what's next? Here is what's next. You need to stay involved. Don't just sit there at the desk and say, hey, nobody told me what to do. No, you take that initiative and learn. Carry a book around you with notes and take notes, because there are people on the job that like to teach and like to teach others, okay, because it's powerful to them, because they've been around the industry for so long, and now they get kind of bored just sitting behind the desk. So they want to revisit where they first started, and that's with your position, all right? So you sit down and get some information, Okay, learn. Learning is very important because you're in the area of cybersecurity. Learning is always and always and always available. You will never stop learning. Okay, become intellectual. Intellectual means that you can talk the talk. If you like auditing, sit down and have a conversation with someone, especially about auditing, and tell them about your job. Okay, if you like to do ethical hacking, just sit down and have an intellectual conversation, especially with people about ethical hacking. All right, become intellectual. Attend events. There are all kind of events that are happening where you can learn information about the new trends in cybersecurity, because at these events is where you have a chance to network with professionals. Maybe you're going to be transitioning to a job and, you need some more information. All right. And it's a great place to meet people because it's industry related information, and there are conferences all over the U.S. If you go to Google and search in cybersecurity conferences, I would imagine there's 5 or 10 per month that are going across the U.S. If you're in Atlanta, Georgia, D.C., New York, the larger cities, I'm pretty sure there are conferences every week. All right. Look for improvement. Everyone should be trying to improve their skill sets. No one is, how could I say, left behind, but you know what? The growth mindset plays a key role. Grow your skill sets. Here are some other nuances. 10-minute rule. You are never late. When I was in the military, we used to have this little talk, right? If you are 10 minutes early, then you're never late. This is a part of the nuances here. These are the things that are not discussed for career development. You don't want to walk into an office and be like late all the time. You want to be the first one in the office, and you want to be the first one that shows up at a meeting there with your notes and with your pad, and ask questions while you're at the meeting. Stay involved and learn. Let's see, virtual meetings. Yeah, Teams. I'm pretty sure everybody uses Teams, but you got to be careful about Teams. You got to turn your mics off because a lot of people are working remotely from the house. All right. And you have your TV on the background, or your kids are running around the house. You don't need that information to be going across Teams. Make sure you dress professionally when you're on Teams. All right. And you can blacken out your background on Teams as well. These are the things that are not talked about. Okay. Because when you're on Teams and how you come to these meetings, it is an image of you. Okay. And you want to make sure that you stay professional. High value asset, add skill sets. When you can diversify your skill sets and you become marketable, you become a high value asset. In my book, The Cybersecurity Mindset, I talked about having a high value asset. Now, the high value asset stating that when you come on a job, you only have 4, maybe 5 critical skill sets that you're good at. As you become a long-term employee there, you may pick up 6, maybe 7 more skill sets. And now what happens is that you're much more valuable to that company. And also you're valuable to yourself. And so what happens is that you become a high value asset. And once you become a high value asset, people want you. All right. And your resume should document yourself as a high value asset if you have all those skill sets. Proactive mindset, right? When you work in cybersecurity, stay proactive. We do not want to work in an emergency mode, okay? Being reactive means that we have to shoot from the hip, and also, 2, people have to work in an emergency mode, all right? Proactive mindset. Be proactive about what you do, all right? And you can resolve a lot of problems by being proactive, all right? So, so to carry this on, to go make all of this work, what you need to have is an individual development plan. Okay. When I was in the Navy, we used to have an individual development plan built, and the purpose of that individual development plan was to shape your career. And as your midterm evaluation used to occur, every sailor used to have an individual development plan with the goals as far as their qualification, as far as their promotion, as far as where they see themselves in the next 5 years, right? And, that same concept can be used for cybersecurity. You should have a 2-year, 5-year, or 10-year type of individual development plan. IDPs are written schedules or plans designed to meet your particular goals for development, all right? Where is it that you see yourself in those upcoming years? Using an IDP is a systematic way of planning for training and gaining experience in order to develop these specific skills and knowledge you may need. Yes. Think about the certifications that you want. Put those down in your plan. Work on those plans. All right. And now, speaking of certifications, diversify your certification. Go and get a CISSP. Go and get a certified ethical hacker. Go and migrate over to cloud now and get a certification. Go over to Microsoft and get a certification. Here's the easy way to look at it. Go out there and look at all the vendors that have certification and try to get one across each. You got Cisco, Microsoft, Aseka, ISC Squared. You got CompTIA. Okay, you got EC Council. If you get a certification across all of those, then you're very remarkable. There's a diversification in your certifications that you offer. And now what happens is that you're much more powerful. And as I said before, you become a high value asset. Plan your training and employment. Assess your particular strengths, set reasonable goals, and provide an outline of activities that you're going to do and in order to have your IDP operates there. Okay. So your individual development plan is about you. It's a roadmap of where you want to see your career in the next, 2, 5, or 10 years. All right. That's what you should have in place. And if you go online and search and type in the word individual development plan, you can always find the information out there. All right. So we had a high level view of what it takes to build a successful cybersecurity career. All right. Take this information and use it wisely. Think about your resumes, think about the certification, and think about the education that you need. All right. Because careers can change and so does technology. And when that happens, you're going to need to advance your skill sets. All right. And when you advance your skill sets, that's when you become that high value asset and you can help organizations out. All right. So when you're able to help some organization out, then you can operate cybersecurity. Right. So what I want you to think about this, you can operate cybersecurity. Think about it, because in episode 15, Let's Employ Cybersecurity, it's time to see how it operates. This is exactly what we're going to be talking about.
You've been listening to the Chief of Cybersecurity podcast, where you have gained relevant knowledge to enhance your cybersecurity mindset. Be sure to visit DewayneHart.com to learn more about authored publications, show notes, and discover more information concerning cybersecurity.